Greetings from the apocalypse. This week in the studio, we filmed tubing part 7. Can you believe we're still on this? So, the original tubing that we measured a stone for and made the tubing for, of course, then turned into terminations for Alexis's chain. So we pulled the tube, we've got our beautiful sections, and now we need to cut off our little pieces. Now, something I've probably talked to you about before is using a miter block is the most helpful thing for getting things like tubing perfectly level, because they can be really tricky to do otherwise. And I tried for years and I was not very successful. So today you'll see us get the end of the tube perfectly flush, measure off exactly the section that we want, and saw it off, and in the end up with two beautiful parallel straight sides.
You're on.
Okay, so miter block. These are so fabulous. If you're doing tubing, you must get a miter block, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I struggled for years making tubing and terminations and then sawing them and trying to get them straight. It's like you would saw and file and sand, and somehow it was never quite straight, and it made me like lose my shit repeatedly. So one of these is the best thing. Now, if you look from the side, they vary, and some of them have different angles in it. You see what I'm saying? Like, so in other words, I can loosen this up. You know, loosen the little screws to open it. And then I can open it down here where it's straight across, and then you can also put it in places where it has, I believe, a 45 and a 60-degree angle. I'm just gonna try to cut this beautiful and straight, so we're just gonna put in the straight across. Now, you don't have to worry about finding a hole that like fits it exactly. You just find an opening that will open enough to put your thing in there. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be a perfect, because usually you're gonna end up using a little triangular one. So I'm going to open this enough, and we had a very important question asked by Alexis earlier, which is, won't this just crush my tube? And what I said was, it will not. Oh, hold on one second. Thank you.
Ran.
Hey, as long as we get the mail, man, I am
That's
not
true.
complaining. You can toss it right at my head. I don't care. It's fine. So you would think that tubing is very fragile, because it is, you know, thin. And don't get me wrong, if you like hit it with a hammer or something crazy like that, it could crush. But this will not do it, I promise. Okay? So you put it in. The first thing we're going to do is just get the end nice and flush. Because if you don't have one end straight, how are you ever going to get any of it straight? So I put it in here with just a little bit sticking out, you know, just enough that if I remove it, then I'll have a flush surface. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you just press it down, and then I'm going to twist these little guys on top to hold it in place.
Come around the front.
And now that I have this sticking out, I can saw it or I can file it. One of the whole key of all this really does, it holds your piece steady, and then you can file or saw right against it, so you know you're gonna get like a perfect 90-degree angle, which is not always easy to do, so it's very handy. So a lot of times for something like this, I'll set up a bench pin, even though I'm not the hugest fan of bench pins ever. But in this case, it's nice to have something to rest against. Ah, a vibrant street life. I'm just going to grab my file real fast. This is not holding. That's super cool. So maybe I'll switch over to the other one. See if this one holds. Yes, beautiful. Let me just grab my file. Be right back. Look at that. So pretty. Okay. A lot of times I'll just do this, you know what I mean? So that this hangs down like this, but it's whatever's comfortable for you. It doesn't matter so much exactly how. just that you're comfortable. And you're not going to hurt your block or anything. You can just file right on the block. And so it's perfect and flush. It's basically the most perfect and straight thing you'll ever see in your life. So cherish that moment. So basically I just file until I'm not removing anything anymore. Just like that. Just take a shot of that, please. And now that is a perfect 90-degree ending, which is not easy to get any other way. Okay, so we're gonna pause and we'll go solder on that ring and then we'll come back and do the rest of it. Delicious miter block. Okay, so now I can take it out because it's filed nice and flush. Now this is a brand new one, so it's a little bit stiff, but so if you take a look at this, you can see that there's a little bit, it's perfectly level, which is the most magical thing that any jeweler can see in anything ever, is something perfectly level. And there is a little bit of like residue, like a little burr left over from where I filed. So normally I would just take a little green paper and just knock that off of it, but it's not really important right now. So what Alexis has done is she has measured how long she needs for her terminations, plus a little bit on the end for where we're going to be soldering. And we have our measurement right here. So all I can do now is I can run this right along the ends. Hold on, gotta get myself in a good spot. You see how I'm just laying out a little scratch there? Can you see? So there's my little mark. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put it back in the miter block. And I usually set it up so that my mark is just sticking out like this. If you could get like a close-up of that. Because you figure when I saw that, the saw blade is gonna leave a little bit of a curve. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna take up a little tiny bit of space. So I like to put the line a hair away from the block so that in theory, you're getting exactly the length that you wanted to get originally. Now, most of the time that like 1/1000th of a millimeter isn't gonna make or break anything, but just so you know. Close this down and we'll squeeze this tight. You might want to use a little graphite powder on this, you know, so it slides a little easier. This is just shiny and new. There we go. Okay, and do you have your saw set up? Go. This blade is quite thick. I would actually suggest like a 6-0 or 4-0. So why don't we change that out and then we'll saw it.